All right, ladies and gentlemen, this thing recording? Yeah, it looks like it's recording. We are going to be making a video today. Not of these guys, just checking it out. I'm doing a bunch of research on a new channel I'm trying to make. I got a bunch of writings going on down here. I told you guys about this a long time ago, trying to make a relationship video channel about certain things. So I keep in touch with Manosphere stuff. That's what that was. And of course, we got Best Girl over here, which is awesome. Let's see here. But today we're talking about Paladin stuff. Oh boy. So I actually got into a bit of an argument with Drakova. Not really an argument, more like Drakova was telling me what he's going to be doing with Holy Reckoning and Season of Mastery. And I keep harping on him, get Edward the Odd, get Edward the Odd. And he's like, nah, I think Edward the Odd is not really a Holy Reckoning weapon. It's more of like a deep holy weapon. And I'm just like, yeah. So I tried throwing math at him, but my math eventually turned into wah 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 wah. So I decided to actually sit down, crunch all the numbers, and make a damn video. Basically calling them out. Here we have all the numbers, and back over here we have the gear sets as set up in Classic. Yeah, but we gotta switch this one over to Edward the Odd, I think. Yeah, I was doing math on the other one. Come on, Edward the Odd, check our Rooney. Make sure we got Arcanite Rod 30 spell damage, roger that. And then I need the Theron. Season of Mastery, no level. Yeah, we do it by level. Scroll down here. This thing. Okay, torch. Alright, so as you can see, none of these gears actually have trinkets in them whatsoever. So all these stats are basically done without trinkets. And we're basically going to go from there. The mathematical stats were kind of fascinating. So we're basically calculating, okay, I'll just go over the information here real fast. So we got white DPS, which is drawn straight from the math on this thing. So for example here, if I scroll over DPS, we have 33.12, and then if we go back over here, we have a whopping 33. The number in parentheses is me accounting for armor to attempt to get DPS. So this number here would be DPS, like factoring in armor. And the number that I usually assume my target has as far as armor is concerned is about 70%. Because 70% is roughly the average amount of armor that most targets have. Most clothies in the game have some kind of buff here or there that increases their armor, so they end up getting somewhere between 25% and 30% armor. My bad, 25% and like 28% armor for a clothy. I think warlocks can go up a little bit more than that. Yeah, and then hunters, I think, struggle to get over 33% armor. Maybe they are rogues. Yeah, they get around 30% armor at best. And then hunters, I think, get up to like 35. I could be wrong. But let's assume 70% chance and go from there. And I'm usually not that far off. Other interesting facts. SOR, so this would be like your damage in the SOR per hit. And then in parentheses, we have just the raw DPS of that. This is assuming you're swinging a hand of rag, which is a 3.7 speed weapon. So that divided by blah, blah, blah. And then over here, we have different numbers for with Crusader or without Crusader. So the numbers in parentheses here are with Crusader. Let's get some highlights going here. Zip. Zip. Yeah, so the numbers in parentheses, like right here, are with Crusader up, and then this is the DPS. So this would be damage output of SOR, the actual damage, with both with and without and with Crusader. And then this would be the raw DPS, because you are swinging around a rather fast one-headed weapon and Edward the Odd. And of course over here we can see that with the spell power gear, it just goes absolutely nuts. The spell power Paladin, there's a little bit of an interesting thing here because it does use rank gear. That's an important thing to note. So there is at least plus 20 damage to Crusader. But then of course we're using a Libram of Fervor, which pumps that up even further, because these builds do actually use Crusader if you're going for a time on target style play. What else do I want around here? Right, but when we scroll over, go over to here, which is the tier 2 build, which I actually have a lot of experience with. We have an Onyxia pendant here, which is actually not necessary. You could swap that out with something else, but so this could be even higher spell power. but you get like, 325 spell power, and then upwards of like you reach over 500 spell power when you have Seal the Crusader active. What else is important about the numbers over here? Judgment damage over here gets kind of wonky because it varies on what you're doing. So if you're like one-handed, how do I put this? If I'm just gonna bomb a target and I'm trying to kill them inside of a bomb, you're gonna be using max rank judgment. But if I'm trying to like time on target for quite a bit of time, which is the number that we have down here, you would be using rank 3 judgment, and you would be judging Crusader instead. So that's why the judgment numbers are kind of all over the place. But really, this is a rank 3 judgment. I think this build only has like 180 spell power. I can go check it out real fast here. This is the guy? Yeah, this is the guy. Like, yeah, about 180 spell power. So the judgment isn't all that impressive from a rank 3. But it would be different if you were bombing and then switching into the one-hander. This is calculated down here. So this bomb here is actually using a... I forget if it's using a... I think it's using a max rank at the start to hit the target, but you're judging Crusader into the target. So you're judging Crusader, but then you're using, you're judging Crusader and then you're using rank 3, right? Okay. And then other ones down here, yada, yada. But the really important information about all of this is, how do I explain this? There's really take that back. There are 4 main scenarios that are worth considering for you as a Holy Reckoning Paladin that you're going to find yourself in, and you really need to do the math on. The first one would be the average damage, the output of your bomb. Okay. The second number of import would be a high roll bomb, because there are scenarios where you as a Holy Reckoning Paladin, you can get in multiple rec bombs, like rec bomb after rec bomb after rec bomb, like when you're fighting a mage, for example. And so you're less interested in... we prefer to have an average rec bomb output that could kill a mage, but at the same time, we can get away with a high roll, like a 1 in 3 high roll rec bomb, that kind of a thing. And then, of course, you're interested in what does my bomb plus stun look like? And a bomb plus stun would be, I put a two-handed 4-stack rec bomb into you, so 5 attacks. Then I stun you for 6 seconds. I consecrate, then I stun you for 6 seconds. And then I, grenade you. So you're stuck there for like 7.5 seconds. You can get in with a 3.7 weapon speed, such as Hand of Rag. 2 auto attacks inside the bomb plus grenade stun 7.5 second combo. Because, of course, 3.7 times 2 is... what is that? That's 7.4, and the enemy is going to be stunned for 7.5 seconds, so that works out perfectly. That's another important note over here, and it's also important to note with using Edward the Odd, so I got that. And then, of course, the last one in my book is bomb plus 20 seconds of time on target. That's another very important number to know, so that would be our 4th and final one. And then there are scenarios where just your raw... DPS, both offensive and like raw DPS output and your raw healing capabilities are important just over a long period of time. Specifically, I'd be thinking of like when you're fighting priests, because a single PvP trinket usage on a priest means that they're going to be stuck there fighting you for at least 25 seconds until they can Psychic Scream you again. It gets even worse for them if you resisted, then you decide if you waited for a resist and then you PvP trinketed the next fear, so they're going to be stuck there for 50 seconds before they can get a fear off. If you have Bubble Up or you have, what is it? Mithril Insignia Trinket, there we go. You're just going to have this long grinding fight, and that's where the raw DPS output of the one-hander starts becoming important. All right, so rather fascinating things of note here are when I switch to Edward the Odd. Okay, so let's just talk about the gear for a second. So These numbers represent the rank gear, but you're using a Hand of Rag. And then this one is, okay, what if I swapped out from Hand of Rag to a one-hander, like Edward the Odd? And then this one is, let's just compare the rank gear setup to what I've actually have experience playing with, which is a full tier 2 one-hander build where I never really have a good Hand of Rag. And then the numbers down here are for, let's actually make that a color. Blue? No, we're using blue already. Let's do orange down here. That's probably good. All right, so the numbers in orange would be, what if I had a Hand of Rag, and instead I'm running up, I'm bombing with the Hand of Rag, and then I'm going into the one-hander with tier 2 and a metric shit ton of spell power. And we can see here calculating the DPS of the bomb, all that kind of stuff, and then all the numbers that come out of there in general. Rag bomb into one-hander at 480. Okay, yes, I actually have it labeled here. That's nice. And then a rag into one-hander, and then Hand of Rag only. Good. And of course, here's the gear for the. This is the Hand of Rag only gear. This is the, I swap out of it into a one-handed Edward the Odd style. There might be a shield here. There might not be a shield here. Plus or minus 33 spell power accordingly. And then we have the full tier 2, you know, a little bit off on the spell power, but, you know, whatever. All right, so what conclusions can I draw from all of this? So it's actually really fascinating. On paper, mathematically, the tier 2 one-handed Edward the Odd build does by far the highest DPS. You can see here that with Crusader, it's reaching up almost to 210 DPS, whereas the Hand of Rag and the one-hander lag behind significantly. This is with Frost Oil, by the way, so if your Edward the Odd didn't have Frost Oil, then these numbers would be, like if I minus Frost Oil from here and I lose 5 DPS, or I minus Frost Oil from here and I lose like 24 DPS, a little bit of a significant change, so it becomes much more closer in line. That's an important thing to keep in track of. It also, what the hell was I thinking about? My brain died. Give me a sec. There's one other thing with Crusader. Ah, right. Edward the Odd also is, I prefer Edward the Odd. I think it's the best all-around weapon by miles for a one-handed style Paladin. However, it is not the highest DPS. Flurry Axe and is number 1. And then Akari Manslayer is number 2. Flurry Axe's effective speed is like, 1.4 seconds, whereas Edward the Odd's speed is 1.6 seconds. And Flurry Axe is absolutely not messing around at 1.4 seconds and thunking the target for over like 127 holy damage every Kabluski. So this number can actually go up significantly if you're using a Flurry Axe as far as raw DPS is concerned. Edward the Odd has some perks, though, that we'll talk about later. And, of course, I have these recorded here. Weapon proc plus 70% life. This is up to a plus 70% life heal because you can get your free critical heal out instantly, and you'll go up like 70% life. All right, so, yeah. So, I know the Tier 2 one-hander from experience, and it is an absolute monster. The only class in the entire game that you actually struggle to take on is Mage. And you can see here why in the numbers. So our bomb is non-existent. Even if I had a Hand of Rag, my bomb average is quite low at only 3,000. And if I tried to calculate for a more like an above average bomb with Hand of Rag in the tier 2 gear, that wouldn't increase this number all that much. It might increase it by let me think off the top of my head. This might go up maybe 400 damage. So you might be like 3,400 damage, whereas you can see here you're reaching almost 4,000 with the Hand of Rag, RNGesus, above average. It's also important to note that we're taking average numbers with these Hand of Rag hits. And it should be noted that the weapon variance, the base weapon variance is actually quite large. It's about 150. Yeah, it's about 150. So the weapon itself just has 150. You can see it right here on the weapon 223, and then it's literally 149 weapon variance. So your Hand of Rag naturally comes with over 150 weapon variants attached to it. And that's not taken into account since we're just taking the raw critical strike chance into play. Also, we don't have trinkets. I can't stress enough that we don't have trinkets in any of these. So a Hand of Rag here might actually be viable for potentially killing mages. But you have to factor in trinkets. So, for example, like what do trinkets look like and what do they change the thing? Well, this bomb over here might have like an extra 2% critical strike chance, or it might have a Hand of Justice effect to it, like, you know, Black Hand's Breath or Hand of Justice. And then the one-handed or the two-handed Tier 2 build, you'd be working with things in the vicinity of Hand of Justice is actually still not half bad. But you'd be working more with things like, try to remember, like 6 Demon Bag that has a lot of spell power behind it. So you have like a plus 400 damage burst trinket that you can just light off into the target. And when you start factoring in trinkets, a higher than average bomb that's about 3,400, I actually should put that in there. I should have this in brackets with 3,400. But a higher than average bomb at 3,400 plus like a burst trinket or a frost reflector or a goblin mortar or a nade is going to be enough to start threatening kills on mages or straight up getting kills on mages. But you're looking at like a 1 in 4 wreck bomb, and you need a PvP trinket or some kind of trinket to back it up. So it's kind of meh. So again, just to cover my point here, I've played this build. I just didn't have a Hand of Rag. And what you don't even need a two-hander. You just run around with Edward the Odd and this absolutely stupidly high amount of DPS that comes out of it, and you just grind people into pulp with this absolutely ludicrous amount of DPS, like higher than the two-handers, right? And that works spectacularly well against all classes, specifically except for mage. Because you don't get to time on target a mage. You have to try to kill them in a very, very short window in time indeed. You don't even get to bomb, stun, kill them. The bomb and stun was actually quite substantial in both cases. The parentheses here for the bomb plus stuns factor in Hammer of Wrath. But Hammer of Wrath is situational. You don't know if you're going to get it off. You don't even know if you have the 0.5 seconds to cast it. With Edward the Odd, it's kind of interesting, though, the Hammer of Wrath, because... if you don't know, Edward the Odd every... Edward the Odd every 10 auto attacks, which is only 16 seconds of attack time, right? Less if there's parry haste and reckoning charges and all that stuff going off. Every 16 seconds of attacking something, or every 10 auto attacks you do, the weapon... No, I take that back. Is it 10 or 5? 10? 5. 10. 1 second here. Or 6. Like, I know the proc rate on Edward the Odd. The proc rate on Edward the Odd is about 5.6% chance per weapon swing. I can't remember if it's 5.4 or 5.6. So I just say whatever, 5.6. And call, say, parry haste and reckoning charges and throw that under the bus. But the reality of the situation with Edward the Odd is that it swings so quickly under combat conditions that within like 15 seconds of swinging this thing, which is going to be like 10 auto attacks, you're going to have like a 60% chance to proc this damn thing. And in the bombs, what tends to happen is you bomb the target, and then you get like an extra 4 to 5 attacks in on the bomb afterwards. And you're looking at something like a, what is that, like a 55% chance to proc Edward the Odd in a bomb. And when Edward the Odd procs, it's actually kind of fascinating because it's an instant Hammer of Wrath into the target if it's available. And you have so much spell power, it does like an extra 800 damage. So, like, I've bombed rogues coming out of stuns and then laid into them with this kind of effect. And this amount of damage potential, this 4,280, it actually threatens kills on rogues because rogues don't have a lot of... let's say a rogue has 5,000 hit points, right? By the time he comes out... if you're sitting in Retribution Aura, by the time you come out of the stun and you can do anything, the rogue is already at 90% life. So he's lost like 500 life from just a bunch of reflect damage. Then when you turn and you look at him and you put the bomb into him, or you stun him and you put the bomb and you throw down Consecration, or really what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to throw down Consecration and then stun him and then put the bomb into him. this number can get really scary. So if you add like 500 to this, for example, you're at 4,800. Most rogues don't have 5,000 hit points. They're sitting close to like 4,800 hit points, and it's so hard for them to run to like stun you and then turn and run and somehow live. So they're just in a situation where yeah, and then if you have any burst trinkets, they just explode. So there is very much, and I've experienced this, there is a serious threat of you being able to actually kill a rogue with this kind of burst, even out of something as mundane as an Edward the Odd burst. However, with Hand of Rag, they're just going to absolutely explode. I mean, Control Z. This number is just absolutely ridiculous. So they were dead even before Hammer of Wrath came into the equation. And then when your numbers get so high like this, Hammer of Wrath is definitely going to come into the equation. So if you got a Hand of Rag, they expect the rogue to just explode on average. Like a 3,000 damage average bomb plus 500 reflect damage. And it gets worse because Hand of Rag actually does have some reflect damage to it. It's got, like, 5 damage to the attacker, which is kind of gross. So yeah, it's absolutely going to obliterate rogues. It's not even a thing. Time on target is fascinating because the two-handed Edward the Odd time on target, like the bomb plus 20 seconds, is actually doing more than the rank gear over here, which is kind of fascinating. And then, of course, the Edward the Odd Hand of Rag bomb into one-hander was still more than sufficient to kill most targets within a bomb plus a 20-second time on target. Okay. So, numbers aside, let's talk about conclusions in general. Actually, I need to talk about this over here. So, the general conclusion is Tier 2, Edward the Odd, Hand of Rag is a monster. Okay, it is an absolute beast. I haven't played it with Hand of Rag, but I have played it with just Edward the Odd, and it's an absolute monster. The only thing that you struggle against is mages, and with a Hand of Rag or even a better two-handed weapon, you can at least... You'd probably have something like a 60%, 70% win rate against mages just because you actually are somewhere in the ballpark of the numbers that you need to start being able to kill a mage. I need to make an entire video on how Holy Reckoning versus mage plays out in order for you to understand that these numbers are actually lethal to mages. So, for example, this 3,323 average rec bomb on, like, a mage, for example, is actually potentially lethal to a mage. And then this higher than average bomb of near 4,000 is straight up potentially lethal to a mage if you know how the matchup works. So, a quick summary of how Holy Reckoning versus mage matchup works is that the matchup takes 1,000,000 years. And it takes 1,000,000 years due to you being so tanky, you being able to survive the counterspell heals by putting freedom on yourself and then running away in a straight line when they counterspell you. And more importantly, so they can't kill you in a counterspell. So once you figure out that they can't kill you in a counterspell, you realize they have to grind you down on the mana front. And the problem with that is, on the private servers, there was no heartbeat duration on the sheep. Make sure I'm recording here. Yeah, okay, we're good. There was no heartbeat duration on the sheep. So they could sheep you and then re-sheep you, and they'd be drinking the entire time. So they would, within a sheep/drink session for a mage, they could get like 40 seconds of drinking in. And 40 seconds of drinking for a mage would essentially translate into 2/3 of their mana bar gain. Well, Holy Reckoning, if I'm full life as Holy Reckoning, which I'm always going to be when I come out of a sheep, right? A mage needs 2/3 of their mana bar to even have the potential of killing me as a paladin. Like, it takes 2/3 of their effing mana bar to even threaten a kill on me as a paladin. And on actual classic WoW, since heartbeat duration is a thing, the mages basically have two options. They can risk heartbeat duration and just try to drink as much as possible, in which case they're likely to get about 50% mana regeneration before you come out of the sheep. Or what they can do is, which is what a lot of the really good mages do, is they only drink for a little while, like about half that amount of time, about 20 seconds, and then they stand up and they wand you. And then they sheep you again, they get a little bit more drinking in again, and then they stand up and they run away in a straight line stopping every now and then to, like, rank 1 Fire Blast you, or to wand you, or to rank 1 Frostbolt you, or whatever, to keep you in combat. The reason why they're doing that is they don't want you to have the chance to drop combat ever, which is what happens if they allow the sheep to break on a heartbeat. Well, if you allow the sheep to break on a heartbeat on a paladin, I can swap trinkets. I can immediately swap into resistance gear, and completely fuck the matchup for them. But really, I'm not a big fan of the resistance gear swap, because it just means that I made the matchup a draw, which has its benefits at times, but, I don't really carry the resistance gear. It's not my style. I don't like doing the resistance gear thing. So the really high-level mages, they just won't let a heartbeat duration happen ever, so that you cannot trinket swap, so that you cannot, gear swap on them. However, the downside of that is that they can only regenerate about 1/3 of their mana in that given period of time, which means they have to do it twice, which is why they're running away and hitting you with this or that to keep you in combat, because they're waiting for the DR of their sheep to wear off so they can repeat the cycle and get back that 2/3 mana bar that they desperately need to even threaten a kill on you. The problem with this, though, is that this takes so long, especially in duels, and it's even worse under world PvP conditions, because you can prevent the sheep by just grabbing the nearest mob and forcing it to attack you, which means that this style of play isn't even an option anymore. But in, like, duels, open field duels, the problem with this play is that you regenerate so much mana by just chilling as the paladin when this is happening, that the duel will go on forever. It'll literally last like 8 minutes. Sometimes it'll go up to 10 minutes, and the duel will just end because it's taking too damn long. This really becomes a thing if you have any kind of resist gear on you, or if you have thick obsidian breastplate, which is technically essentially resist gear. But they just really struggle to kill you without risking some heartbeat duration. So really high-level mages will try to find this nice balance between risking heartbeat duration and trying to and then not risking heartbeat duration. But it's really kind of a fascinating matchup. But more importantly for Holy Reckoning, what this means is that we have an ocean of time to play with. So we end up having like 2 PvP trinkets to play with, 2 bubbles to play with. If the fight goes on long enough, you have like 1 to 2 Goblin Mortars. Actually, I think Goblin Mortar has a 10-minute duration. Let's see, more. Yeah, Goblin Mortar. I think it's got a 10-minute cooldown. I could be wrong. Come on, internet. What the hell, bro? Yeah, what? Oh, man. All right, one sec. Let me try to put up my VPN here. God help us. It's China at 7:30 at night. You're not going to do anything. The internet is like, what's going on? Whatever. I give up. Yeah, so it's like 10-minute cooldown. So if the duel lasts like 10 minutes or so, you end up having like 2 Goblin Mortars. God help them if you have a like a title charm in there and that kind of stuff. This is the wrong image. But how the duel basically plays out with the mage is the mage keeps resetting and resetting and resetting, and you get to put numerous wreck bombs into the mage, between 3 to 4 in my experience, before either the duel ends or they finally get a good enough RNG lay to kill you. And how these bombs come about, like legitimate bombs, as in the mage didn't screw up style bomb, but actually a legitimate bomb, is off of like grenade, Goblin Mortar, grenade, title charm, things like rocket boots and stuff like that, and so forth and so on. So, for example, let's say you're running at a mage, and the mage is going for the sheep. And then the mage successfully sheeps you, but then you PvP trinket, and you keep running at him. And he's like, oh shit. Or, oh, this is a better example. He's going for the sheep. You grenade him so he can't get off the sheep. He blinks out of the grenade. But if you do the math on the blinking and stuff, he still needs to sheep you again. And you are going to be almost physically on top of him by the time he gets that sheep off, because there's not a lot of distance between you anymore. And you just PvP trinket the sheep, immediately his blink is going to be down, which means you're forcing out an ice block, or he's going to have to bomb. Then they, so let's say that you force out an ice block. Awesome. Yeah, so you force out an ice block. He sits in the ice block for a million years, and then he comes out of it, and he blinks away from you again. Cool. Goblin Mortar him, or Title Charm him. You've used 2 PvP trinkets, but you're going to physically get on top of him and be able to put a bomb into him. He'll have to ice block again. And basically, it's just a formula where it's like, if I'm using movement speed enhancers, like Nifty Stopwatch and Grenade is going to force out ice blocks, or they're going to get bombed. Goblin Mortar plus PvP Trinket is going to force out ice blocks, or they're going to get bombed. Title Charm plus Bubble or PvP Trinket is going to force out ice blocks. They're going to get bombed. If you can do the math on the distance, again, I got to make a PvP guide. Like, let's say they blink away from you 20 yards, right? And you throw a grenade or a Goblin Mortar or a Title Charm stun them, and you're only stunning them for 1.5 seconds. Pull up a calculator here real fast. Your movement speed is actually, it's a little over 9 yards a second, and you're going to be running for 1.5 seconds. So you're going to close the distance by about 14 yards to that target before they can, before they'll come out of the stun. The simple fact of the matter is, they're not 20 yards away from you. When they had to blink, odds are they had to blink through you and behind them. And behind you. So rather than being 20 yards away, they're usually less than 20 yards away. And even 1 yard less than 20 yards away under these conditions, you're going to be within melee range. So again, you're forcing out something. You're forcing out swiftness potions. You're forcing out movement speed enhancers. You're forcing out, most of the time, it's ice block or they get bombed. But once they're out of ice blocks, then they just start taking bombs. It's as simple as that. Once they're out of ice blocks, they start taking bombs. And again, so we have Title Charm to work with, we have Goblin Mortar to work with, we have grenades to work with, we have our movement speed enhancers like Nifty Stopwatch. You can put Goblin Rocket Boots in there, but I really don't like to. We have Swiftness Potion that we could work with, and we have Bubble. And then when you start thinking about the fact that the fight is going to take so goddamn long, and if they let you do any kind of heartbeat duration stuff, you're going to be able to trinket swap. And then it gets even weirder because if you're forcing out ice blocks after stuns, which is the scenario, right? So we stunned them. We're about to close on them and put a bomb into them. They blink out of the stun. We stun them again. We run up to them. They're about to get bombed. They're forced to ice block. If you can force a mage to ice block immediately after they've done a blink, as long as you're chilling, right? You're just chilling like a villain as the Paladin, you're going to find yourself out of combat, which means whatever trinkets you just spent to get that ice block out of them, you can just trinket swap into something else. And so it becomes very important to realize that even if they're not letting us heartbeat duration trinket swap, then you can actually force out trinket swaps with other trinkets. And if I actually start writing it down here, we can actually do the math. So you're going to get at least, orange, nice. You're going to get somewhere in the vicinity of like 1 to 2 Goblin Mortars. You're going to get, let's go over here actually. Zip and zip. Yeah, you're going to get 1 to 2 Goblin Mortars off. You're going to get probably 2 Title Charms. You're going to get at least 2 PvP Trinket? Whatever, PT. What else you got going on here? Oh, wait a minute. Title Charm might have a 15-minute cooldown. My bad. 1 Title Charm. I know Thank you. I know Nifty Stopwatch. You got 1 Nifty Stopwatch to work with. You've got, in that space of time, you have 2 bubbles. Oh, my goodness. Got 2 bubbles. What else do we have to work with here? A Goblin Mortar, bubble, and then you have like a million grenades. I might be missing something, but I think that's what you have to work with. And keep in mind, I need to only use like PvP Trinket, Nade, PvP Trinket. Let me think about this. Yeah, PvP Trinket and Nifty Stopwatch alone, plus Grenade. grenade, PvP trinket, nifty stopwatch, I'm going to force out an ice block. Just straight up. Some of these are a one-time deal, so it's like if I grenade and Title Charm, I'm probably going to force out an ice block. If I grenade and Goblin Mortar, I'm going to force out an ice block. If I PvP trinket bubbles force out ice blocks like all over the place. Bubble plus movement speed enhancers force out ice blocks. So normally you'd want to use, rather than like PvP trinket, nifty stopwatch, and grenade, you just use nifty stopwatch and bubble, and you start forcing things out. Anyways, once they run out of their ice blocks, they just start getting bombed. And now we can talk about what happens when they start getting bombed. All right, let's delete this here. I want to delete this. No, I want you to go away. Okay, thank you. Bomb average, right? Right. So an above average bomb is going to start is going to drop them about 10% life, give or take, with these numbers here. And a mage that has fallen below Hammer of Wrath range when they don't have ice blocks and stuff like that is kind of dead. Especially if you haven't used, if you have a, they're dead at the next bubble, to say the very least. They're possibly dead with like the next grenade, or they're possibly dead with like the next available X, Y, and Z. It is just how it works. I've even killed them off of like PvP trinket. So it's like I bomb them, and they survive with like a little bit of life left, and then they start running away, and they get away from you, because of course they're going to get away from you. Their blink comes out. It's like you bomb them, and then you chase them for a little bit, and then they blink away from you, and they go for the sheep, and you run at them, and the sheep completes, and then you PvP trinket out of the sheep, and well, more importantly, they blink away from you, and then you Hammer of Wrath them. And they're still alive, and and they're still alive, and then you get the point. How do I put this? If your bomb is capable of dropping a mage into Hammer of Wrath range, they're dead. It's like all roads lead to their death at that point. Especially if you can do this consistently and repeatedly as a Holy Reckoning Paladin, because you just have too many tools to kill them from that point. Just how it is. Kind of like dealing with hunters. It's like, yeah, the hunter can get away from you, but since they're in Hammer of Wrath range, they're really up shit creek without a paddle, and they just have to run. They have to concede defeat or run. They're just 100% dead. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Too many things to play with. All right, so my general conclusion is that the rank gear is better, but it's better not for a few reasons. And the number one reason is that these numbers are actually threatening kills on mages rather consistently. So you're probably going to, if you're really good, you're probably going to have somewhere in the vicinity of like an 85% win rate against mages, maybe even like a 90% win rate against mages. Because again, all these numbers are not factoring in any PvP trinket usages whatsoever. So you could have something as simple as like a burst trinket on this character, like a 6 demon bag, or even like a Rammstein bolt, or like some random 300 damage boosted burst trinket, and all you would need is an above average wreck bomb on the mage, throw in the burst trinket, and they're just going to kind of explode. So but yeah, pretty sure it threatens that. And then you have all the soft things that come with it, which is what this other slide is, just to remind me of all the soft factors. So we need to talk, first we're going to talk about repent. Is that actually spelled repent? Maybe 2 P's? Repent at 66%. So this build, this Hand of Rag build over here, as I keep hyping on about, has 185 fire resistance. And if you actually crunch the numbers on 185 fire resistance for the purposes of resisting grenade stuns, you'll note that it's somewhere between, it's like 63 or 66% chance to resist grenade stuns. That's for a variety of reasons. It's actually 2 resistance checks, right? If you fully resist the fire damage from the grenade, then there is no stun check. When the stun check comes in, it is a fire resistance stun check, all or nothing, and you have a bunch of fire resist. But not only is it a fire resist stun check, it is a fire resist stun check plus your innate 5% chance to resist stuns that all classes in the game have. So, yeah, and of course, you know, it gets up to about 2/3 chance to resist stuns. So why do I call this a repent? Okay. Well, how often have we been in those scenarios as paladins where the enemy's like 30 yards away from us? We throw a grenade on them, we stun them for 3 seconds. We can move about 9 yards a second, so we're going to, in that amount of time, we're going to close the distance with them, 27 yards, a little bit over that. And we're going to be physically on top of them. We're going to put a bomb into them. Here, have a bomb off a grenade. But they'll come out of that bomb potentially alive. They'll heal potion. They'll whip a root. They'll do whatever. They'll be fine. They'll live because we're Holy Reckoning. We don't actually kill in bombs. And they will grenade stun you right back for 3 seconds and use it to run away, completely resetting the distance. Well, if that bomb starts deciding it wants to fail at a 66% rate, because you have 185 effing fire resistance, it's going to act like a repent. So how repent works is, I repent the target at 1,000,000 miles away. I run into them. I put a bomb into them. They grenade stun me for 30 seconds to try to reset the distance. Actually, you can't have a bomb and repent at the same time, so you hit them and pray to God that it counts as a bomb, right? And then they run away. For those, they get 30 yards away from you, and then you use grenade to stun them, catch back up, and you put another attack into them. And so you have this period of time where you're physically on top of the paladin, or the enemy as a deep ret paladin, and they need to pull something else out their butt in order to get you off of them. But what happens for Holy Reckoning, however, with this amount of fire resistance, is the exact same thing plays out. It's just in a much shorter time frame. So rather than it being repent, I get grenaded, they run away, then I grenade them. Now we're back physically on top of each other. It's I grenade them, I run up to them. They try to get me off with a grenade. It fails, and now what? Kind of a thing. And the vast majority of the now what conclusions are they die. So pretty good stuff. So the massive amount of fire resist is kind of a big deal. You can get decent fire resist with the tier 2. So you can see the tier 2 over here if you're running around with a hand of rag. I can go over here and type in rag. There we go. Because rag has 30 fire resistance on it. The hand of rag fire resist, it's like, what is that? Plus 60, 145 fire resist compared to 185 fire resist. You still have a decent chance of resisting the grenades in this gear, which is actually pretty good. But you're not threatening kills on mages is the really big deal. Also, you have sub 5,000 hit points in this gear, and you got a little bit better resistances than the rank gear, but the rank gear has over 100. It's got 100 more HP and it has more fire resist, which is kind of terrifying. But you can modify this gear, I guess. Also, it should be noted that yeah. So okay, so. Yeah, I just remembered. Okay. So this gear takes the plus 200 HP enchantments, right? Plus 200 HP from enchantments. And that's what causes it to get up to this HP number that is serviceable to make the paladin a monster. But it does this at the sacrificing, 40 fire resistance. So it would easily get up to, that 185 fire resistance if it wasn't for the fact that we want this extra plus 200 HP on this build. Meanwhile, over here, we don't have the plus 200 HP. We have plus 20 fire resistance enchants on our gear, and we still have more HP than two, and we have more fire resistance, but we have less overall resistance in general. So this build's a little bit tankier, give or take. Not really, but because the other one has more plus healing, it's nuanced. I'll just say it at that. But anyway, back to all the soft factors that make the rank gear superior. So yeah, so you have a better above average repent. So rather than it being like a 50% chance to resist grenades, you have a 66% chance to resist grenades, which is kind of terrifying. You have more raw HP, and then you have higher resistances as well, in at least the fire resistance. And it's important to note for paladins that every kill combo in the game for us as a paladin, I take that back. Every kill combo for our enemies on us as a paladin involves a grenade. So there's a lot of times, take Shadow Priest, for example, right? Shadow Priest is not going to throw any kind of fire damage at you whatsoever.
unless they're specifically trying to kill you, in which case there's going to be a 500 damage thorium grenade coming out. On top of that, these kill combos always involve getting grenaded, specifically when we're trying to heal ourselves. So it becomes kind of a big deal to resist the grenades, because if you resist the grenade, I should say one of two things happens, right? Either you resist a sizable chunk of that 500 fire damage, like 250 of the fire damage, so you might as well add 250 HP to those numbers that we saw previously, which is what is allowing us to get away with being in the vicinity of 5,000 hit points, when mathematically we need closer to like 5,100, 5,200 hit points. It's because we're pretty much guaranteed to resist somewhere between 50%, about 50% of the damage off of any given grenade that's thrown at us, both Tier 2 and Holy Reckoning, obviously. But more importantly, let's say the grenade does full damage to us, right? Like, boom, we'd actually take the 500 damage. There's a good chance that we resist the stun. And resisting a stun, the vast majority of the time, because the grenades are being used as they're part of their kill combo, almost always means that we got off a heal that we shouldn't have got off. And what it basically means is that if we do get stunned, but we get the 50% or better damage resist, we have more than enough hit points to survive their shenanigans, or their kill combo in the build. If we took the 500 fire damage, suddenly we don't have enough HP to be theoretically safe from their kill combo. But there's this stupidly high chance that we resisted the stun, and resisting the stun, part of their kill combo, means that we also healed ourselves, which means that their kill combo just got completely pushed off the table. It's 100% not going to work. I think this translates into something being about like an 80% of the time, like a 66% chance to resist the stun. There's going to be like an 80% chance that every time a grenade comes out for a kill combo that I will survive it, like, no problem. And then there's 50% of the time when that kill combo does come through, like 20% of the time, they'll get a perfect kill combo off on you. There's a good chance something else resists, or there's a good chance that they roll low on this, or they don't get a crit that they need, and it fails to kill. So basically, it's going to be like a 90% chance at 66% that you're perfectly fine in surviving kill combos. And then, of course, if you're dealing with classes that actually have fire damage as part of their kill combos, like elemental shamans, mages, warlocks, all kinds of other classes, possibly rogues if they're using this thing or that thing to try to get a bit more damage in on you to kill you, yeah, it's just not going to happen. All right, so that's one of the interesting factors of the build. All right, weapon variants. Yeah, we talked about weapon variants on Holy Reckoning is actually kind of a big deal. So you're swinging this Hand of Rag. It comes innately with like 150 weapon variants on it. It's a big deal because we can survive long enough to get multiple wreck bombs in the target. So we don't need, like, Reckoning needs the bomb average. It needs the bomb average to not just kill the target. It needs the bomb average to overkill the target. Because you can almost entirely dictate their win or lose rate based purely upon the average amount of damage output that whole Reckoning's bomb is going to do. So, for example, if you have a bomb that says, like, 70% of the time I'll obliterate my target, they're just going to die. Well, that means that as Reckoning that you likely have a 70% win rate. It's like 90% of the time my bomb is going to kill them. And it's like, all right, well then the only issue you have at that point is can you or can you not get a bomb in on that target? And if you manage to solve the problem of being able to get a bomb in that target, you're going to have a 90% win rate, right? With that win rate only going down against like plate wearers or more heavily armored targets. So, but Holy Reckoning is the complete opposite. What we are looking for is an above-average damage in the bomb on very specific targets, specifically a mage. It's like, because everything else I can bomb plus stun, can I kill you, becomes the question. Or can bomb plus 20 seconds of time on target kill you, becomes the question for Holy Reckoning. So only very specifically against mage do we even need the bomb to start threatening kills on them, and really we just need to get it down to Hammer of Wrath range.
for an ocean of regions that I've talked about and we'll need to talk about more. But even then, we're so tanky that we're not interested in an average bomb being able to do this. We'd prefer an average bomb to be able to do this, but an average bomb doing that is still, for us, it would be like a 1 in 2, right? Because sometimes I'm going to roll high, or sometimes I'm going to roll average or above, and sometimes I'm going to roll average or below. Well, if the average or below is insufficient to threaten a kill on a mage, then yeah, we're looking at 1 in 2 wreck bombs. But honestly, we can afford a 1 in 4 wreck bomb to be threatening, and we can afford probably about a 1 in 3 wreck bomb to be threatening. And at 4,000 damage output, this 1 in 4, 1 in 3 wreck bomb, 4,000 damage output here. Again, this is not factoring in trinkets. This is not factoring in the 150 damage weapon variants. You're going to be fine. You're going to be absolutely fine. So weapon variance is very, very good for Holy Reckoning because we have lots of time we get multiple rolls of the dice. So we're okay with RNG variance because we get multiple rolls of the dice. It's good for us. It's not a bad thing. All right. Easy gearing is the other soft factor that makes this better. It's actually really hard to get to a full tier 2. But this build over here, let's see. Yeah, this Hand of Rag build here, you can make this in like, or the equivalent of it, it's like rank 12, right? I keep talking about it. This is using rank 13 gear, but the only difference between doing this build in rank 12 gear versus rank 13 gear is the rank 13 gear gives you 1% more critical strike chance, which is, in my opinion, a little bit of a deal. But you have 30 less hit points. So if I was to showcase the rank 12 version of this, the only stats that would change would be I'd have 30 less HP, and I'd have 1% less crit, and I think I'd have a little bit more spell power. All right? And so the rank 12 gear is slightly inferior compared to the rank 13 gear, but it's not enough that you're probably going to notice ever. And so the sheer fact that you can do this build with rank 12 gear and all you need is rank 12 and Hand of Rag is just beautiful. And then if you want to go the extra mile, you can get rank 13, but all that's going to give you is effectively like an extra critical strike chance and like 30 HP. I'm a psychopath, so I would definitely go rank 13, but there's an ocean of difference between rank 13 and rank 14, and there's also an ocean of difference between rank 12 and rank 13. Anybody will tell you that. So very easy to get the gear. Love it. Compared to tier 2, it's probably easier to get. You get access to this Paladin playstyle much earlier in the life cycle of Classic WoW, which is a really big deal in my personal opinion. Right, we're talking about soft factors here. What's the next soft factor? No frost oil needed. Right, no frost oil needed. Let's go back over here. Right, so for all the praising I did of the Edward the Odd, it's important to note that frost oil is a huge factor in this monstrosity of DPS output that is technically higher than our one-handed build. I start taking away frost oil from Edward the Odd, and this number of 194 total HP damage DPS versus 207 becomes significantly closer and is technically probably in favor of the Hand of Rag. Actually, that's not true. Let me think here. So this is 189, and this is 207 minus 24. 320, so 83. Yeah, so this is still doing this is 189 versus 183. So yeah, so you're doing slightly more raw HP damage if you don't have frost oil on either of these two, which is kind of a big deal. Frost oil is also not really kicking up all that much. It's more there for like a tactical advantage on the Hand of Rag. What it does show, however, since it goes up to plus 16 DPS over here, is that if you're going to put, whatever. It's just, I don't need frost oil is a big deal because it'll save you a lot of gold over the course of time. And you still got plenty of numbers to actually maul the crap out of people. There's this Edward the Odd number, bomb into Edward the Odd with Hand of Rag in the rank gear is actually kind of a big deal. There's a few matchups where you would want to do this. Shaman comes to mind, Elemental Shaman. Something like a Shadow Priest also comes to mind. certain most warlocks, if not all warlocks, come to mind. So there are certain classes slash matchups where, or even scenarios where, like, let's say I'm jumped on by like two warriors, or like a warrior and a rogue, right? Well, I'm gonna Hand of Rag bomb somebody, and then I'm gonna go sword and board immediately with Edward the Odd, because Edward the Odd is gonna do work against a rogue, or two warriors, or a rogue and a warrior. And of course, I'm going to automatically win that fight if we're not talking about a Mortal Strike warrior. We're talking about a Fury warrior. They just killed themselves. they're not going to survive this because yeah, Edward the Odd's going to proc. Too much parry haste, too much reckoning. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to put on the list of soft factors. So this isn't a Drakova would not consider this to be a soft factor, but I do. Is the value of parry haste and the value of a reckoning charge on the two-handed gear versus the Edward the Odd tier 2 is significantly more. It's not as much as you would think, believe it or not, especially when you start looking at the numbers for the tier 2 running around with Hand of Rag. Not quite as much as you would think, but it is definitely a factor. So if reckoning charges are a factor, or if parry haste is a factor, then we can easily see that this number here can climb up rather significantly over this one over here. So I would put them somewhere in the same ballpark. Especially higher if you're not using oil, but that's very situational. Right, but I was talking about Edward the Odd versus like warlocks and shaman and unique situations, right? The reason for this is because there are certain classes who, if you're physically on top of them, and they only have two ways to get you off of them. Well, any class in the game, if you're physically on top of them, they only got two effing ways to get you off of them. And it's important to note that if they can't get you off of no class in the game, that if you're physically on top of them as a paladin and they cannot get you off of them, survives. They all die, right? So, and the classes in all right. So the only two ways to get you off the only two ways for your enemies to get you off of them as a paladin are for them to do so much damage to you that you are forced to stop and heal yourself, or they have to hit you with some kind of hard CC, right? Now, Shaman's always the good case that I like there, but the Warlock's also in that boat if you have Mithril Insignia running. Shadow Priest is always in that boat, just off of something as simple as PvP Trinket and Bubble. You're going to have a massive window of like 50 seconds of time on target off of where you're physically on top of them, beating the crap out of them, and they can't get you off of them for 50 seconds off of PvP Trinket and like Bubble and maybe a grenade stun resist. Like, you're not going anywhere. And it gets even worse if, yeah... to say nothing of Mithril Insignia trinkets. So against these classes who theoretically cannot get you off of them unless they do enough damage to you to force you to heal, Edward the Odd becomes the play. Because Edward the Odd is going to proc, and Edward the Odd is going to cause you to heal yourself for 70% of your life. And when that happens, your enemy is usually always dead. So, for example, if I'm on top of a Warlock and I've got Mithril Insignia running, I'm probably going to be Edward the Odding them. The reason for that is because the only way they're going to survive this is if they get me low enough life to force me to heal, and Edward the Odd is going to proc and it's going to push it off the board. Also, you can see that our DPS is not half bad at 185. Well, you got to reduce it by no frost oil, theoretically. When I'm physically on top of the target. So it's not half bad. In theory, if you were being very picky about it, I suppose you could bomb them with Hand of Rag, switch over to Edward the Odd until you get a proc, use the proc to heal yourself for a massive amount of HP, and then go right back to Hand of Rag if you want to be a 110,000% try hard. But yeah, so there's a few classes that if you're physically on top of them, they need to play the HP game to get you off of them, and Edward the Odd basically laughs at that, which is kind of a big deal. What was the last soft factor? Yeah, I was talking about no frost oil. I think that's it. Yeah, so you have ease of gearing in the rank gear.
You have ease of gearing. You don't need frost oil. You can very easily tango with mages. You have a very good effective repent chance where you're resisting grenade stuns. And then you have a nice bit of weapon variance. It should be noted that the tier 2 paladin with Hand of Rag is still a monster. Like, I'm not going to lie. If you have Hand of Rag and you have damn near full tier 2, it is an absolute effing monster. Definitely will get the job done. The only thing you struggle with is mages. But then you come over here and you realize that you suddenly, you aren't struggling with mages anywhere near as much anymore. And this gear is a lot easier to get. And it's a little bit tankier if we're talking about raw HP, but it's a little less tankier if we're talking about overall sustain, because this thing has more spell power, right? So I think that the rank gear plus Hand of Rag is the superior tier 2 paladin build. It's also important to have an Edward the Odd, because Edward the Odd is still an absolute effing monster. Again, this bomb plus 20 per second of time on target, like something you get against a Warlock, a Shadow Priest, or a Warlock, Shadow Priest, Elemental Shaman, or under very specific PvP conditions of like 2 versus 1. This number is still absolutely monstrous. You're going to murder the crud out of people. But then again, reckoning charges are kind of a big deal over here. The reason why I prefer Sword and Board Edward the Odd against, like, 2 warriors or like a warrior rogue or even 2 rogues jumping you is Drakova would say it's better to try to kill one of them, but I've learned over experience that under those conditions, Edward the Odd is going to proc. And Edward, okay, how do I put this? When you're 2v1ing as Holy Reckoning under certain combat conditions, and you're thinking, okay, do I stay in Hand of Rag or do I go into Edward the Odd? What ends up happening is if I stay in my two-hander, there's a 100% chance I'm going to kill one of them, and then there's a 50-50 chance that I will win or lose against the second guy. When I switch over to Edward the Odd, though, the chance of me killing one of them goes down significantly, but the chance of me winning the fight against both of them skyrockets to being something like 80%. It's like 80, 85, 90, 100% some of the times, just because of Edward the Odd is not going to proc once. It's going to proc like 2 or 3 times on average before they're actually able to kill you. And so what ends up happening is it'll be like let's say I put the bomb into the warrior, right? And I start Edward odding the warrior. Well, the warrior is going to drop so life that they need to run away. Like, it's going to be hard for me to actually kill the warrior, because once they run away, the rogue can peel for them. They can start stunning the shit out of you. So the warrior's going to get away, but he's going to be hanging at the periphery with like sub 10% life. And then you get to turn and start working over the rogue, and then the rogue is going to start having to run away. So you're going to find these weird scenarios where you might not be able to kill both targets, but you'll definitely survive the encounter with both targets. But that's if they're playing very smart. When they stop playing smart, you usually kill one or you kill both. That's just how it works. Like, the rogue stays in a little too long, not realizing that your Edward the Odd bomb is actually kind of terrifying. Or you could just switch over to Hand of Rag, and they'll stay in until they're like 70% life. And next thing you know, you 6 seconds stun, you consecrate 6 seconds, stun them, and then you start beating the crap out of them with Edward the Odd, and they just kind of melt. And what happened? Yeah, they just die. The warrior basically decides he wants to run away. He's like, nope, don't want none of that. The rogue's dead. I'm 10% life. That fucking paladin still has 80% life. I'm getting the hell out of here. And half mana. I'm getting the hell out of here. Or what happens is the warrior decides to come back in with like sub 10% life to go for, like, the Mortal Strike Whirlwind or the Bloodthirst Whirlwind on you. You survive, no problem, because you're Sword and Board, and then you look at him like, what the hell are you doing? And you kill him. And then the rogue will probably stay around for a little bit longer before deciding that there ain't no way in hell I can kill this 50% life paladin with 50% mana, because this effing Edward the Odd is proccing all over the place. I need to run. So if you stay in two-hander, you'll kill one of them 100% of the time. It'll be an even fight with the remaining guy. So you'll have like a 75% win-loss rate, give or take. Well, actually, that's not true. You actually have a 50% winner-loss rate. under those conditions. But under Edward, if you swap sword and board with Edward, again, I didn't have a good two-hander, so I'm intimately familiar with the Edward the Odd scenario under those type of conditions. You're going to survive almost 100% of the time, and there's a really good chance you'll kill one of them, but sometimes it's just not, it won't happen. It's kind of funny. You also get into these weird scenarios sometimes where it'll be like rogue druid and or rogue hunter, and they're trying to kill you, but Edward the Odd is just laughing at them. And so it ends up just being like this weird draw where it's like the druid's trying to heal the rogue, then sometimes the druid will come in and fight, and then sometimes the druid will run away and heal the rogue some more. And they just can't stop you. You can't stop them from healing. They can't stop you from healing. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? And it just ends in a draw. It's kind of ridiculous. Or eventually I've actually seen the druid before, and then they had to run away. It was kind of dumb. And it's like, okay, guys, what are we doing? It's like, yeah, you can't stop me from healing. I can't stop you from healing. I don't know if you know this, but I regenerate mana like a motherfucker in PV when I'm in melee, and you're not stopping me from being in melee. So what are we doing? What are we doing here? So anyways, I'm going to end the video here. I got to make a Holy Reckoning versus Mage PvP guide with my new understanding about stuff. But yeah, that's the Reckoning build I'd go with. Either rank 12 or rank 13 gear Hand of Rag. And you're pretty much good to go. Anyways, Deus Volt, boys.